As we continue to celebrate the emergence of Mortal Kombat 11's new expansion, Aftermath, by diving into the history of the characters, today we continue on with a relatively new character in the franchise, Cetrion. Cetrion seems like a bit of a departure from the style of many other Mortal Kombat characters up to this point, at least in her design. And she is, but she isn't as divorced from the already existing lore as you might think because of that. Firstly, don't let the whole Mother Earth motif fool you. Cetrion is extremely deadly and extremely powerful, as she is related to a couple of characters who have been in the lore for a long time. Most directly is her being a descendant of Kronika, her daughter in fact. She is also Shinnok's sister, despite her personality and general tone being so incredibly opposite from his, which is actually a key facet of their relationship. With her mother Kronika being one of the most powerful figures in all of Mortal Kombat mythology, you would think she would be quite powerful. And she definitely is. As Shinnok's sister and Kronika's daughter, Cetrion utilizes the power of nature and the elements: water, earth, fire, air, and light. Cetrion's striking armor is largely made up of these elements, along with some chiseled jade and flowing foliage that really bring her motif home. However, after Shinnok's defeat, she would serve her mother behind the scenes. As most of her past is a bit of a mystery, there are plenty of details that have emerged from just the one Mortal Kombat game of which she is a part. During the events of Mortal Kombat 11, it is revealed that Cetrion, much like Shinnok, was more or less a sleeper agent of Kronika for eons. Both Shinnok and Cetrion worked for very different causes and were guided by very different philosophies, other than also being influenced by their mother Kronika, of course. While Cetrion did devote plenty of time to defending life, virtue, and light, Shinnok, of course, defended the opposite: death, corruption, and darkness. While siblings, both Cetrion and Shinnok were adversaries. Yet, this played into Kronika's plans perfectly, as their strong wills and effectiveness for their opposing forces would serve as a wonderful way to maintain balance of these universal forces and allow her to keep control of it all. That control did not last forever though, and once Raiden threatened Kronika's stranglehold on the timeline of the universe and her balance of good and evil by removing Shinnok's head from his shoulders and killing him once and for all, Cetrion saw this as an act that could not go unaddressed, an aggression that would not stand. Cetrion would soon join her mother's side to help her with the new era. The aim of this new era was to restore Kronika's system of balance, with her two children maintaining order for the universe. Even Cetrion herself embraces her role in this balance by calling Shinnok the darkness to her light. This is what ultimately puts her at odds with Raiden later on. This is where Cetrion becomes a little deeper, darker, and more interesting than she might appear at first. While it is true that the basic pillars of her philosophy are centered around the ideals of peace, life, and good, these rules seem to bend and even break under the right circumstances, as her approach to solving problems and dealing with what she deems to be a threat are just as sinister and violent as any other Mortal Kombat character, arguably more than most. As she aligns herself more and more with her mother, her role in life devolves into something far more ominous than what she was originally intended to be. Perhaps as a way to take the place of her late brother, or perhaps because this darkness has been inside her all along. Her attacks are thusly devastating, as she uses the element of water by converting it to red-hot steam that she uses to vaporize her opponent's face before completely incinerating their lower half. Then, as if that wasn't enough, summoning 3 massive blades from beneath the earth to run straight through the barely alive unlucky foe. Despite all of this, Cetrion's actions are not motivated by petty emotions like anger or revenge, but rather, much like her mother Kronika, Cetrion makes her decisions in a very cool manner. She doesn't exaggerate things in her mind, she's not concerned with retribution, and she doesn't spend much time or energy on things that do not suit her interests. This being the case, her alignment with her mother would eventually lead to her defeat at the hands of Earthrealm's warriors, Liu Kang in particular. Towards the end of Mortal Kombat 11, Liu Kang is eventually able to piece together that Cetrion gets physically and spiritually weaker by following Kronika's vision, since it directly opposes the very philosophies Cetrion exists to enforce. This is a weakness that the mindset of an Earthrealm warrior like Liu Kang could easily exploit, as the virtues of Earthrealm ultimately do have more in common with Cetrion's than Kronika's do. Nonetheless, Cetrion believes that the greatest virtue is to abide her mother's will of balance, so eventually the conflicting outcomes of these two ideologies end with Cetrion's defeat. Liu Kang knew that Cetrion's heart was not truly devoted to Kronika's vision as much as it was to Kronika herself, whereas the Earthrealm warriors all believed fully in their cause. Despite Kronika's attempt to win Cetrion back over to her side, Cetrion knows this to be true and fights Liu Kang to her last breath. She loses to him and ultimately sacrifices her essence to Kronika, further strengthening her before the final battle of the game. While Cetrion certainly had a role in the timeline of Mortal Kombat before the events of Mortal Kombat 11, as Kronika's devious plans for the new era came into conflict with Cetrion's desire to maintain virtue throughout the universe, Cetrion's days were numbered. If anything in Mortal Kombat mythos stays consistent, it is generally that whoever believes in their cause is most likely to emerge victorious. As Cetrion did not fully believe in Kronika's vision, she accepted the path anyway, due to her undying desire to serve her mother, which to her is of course the greatest virtue of all. If things hadn't gone the way they did, Cetrion could very well have been an ally of Raiden and Earthrealm by extension, as those two philosophies do seem to have more in common than not. But as fate would have it, Cetrion never got that chance. She was doomed the moment her mother decided to leverage her love of her mother over her to get her to go down swinging in her plans. As most deaths in Mortal Kombat universe are not final, perhaps we'll see Cetrion's energy materialize again, and we can see more of her in future games. But for now, her story ends here. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed and would like to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to ensure you'll be notified when new videos go up.